So this show is all about taking a gaggle of old triple sleds out to the ice and running them as fast as they'll go on a radar gun. Now, snow conditions around here aren't that great, so there's really no trail riding, but the ice on the lake, those conditions are just about perfect. And these facts have inspired me to bring these two opportunities together. Honestly, up to this point, I've been getting pretty down on the snowmobile season. MF COVID-19 has been absolutely destroying my schedule and getting on my last nerve. So much so that until recently, I was actually thinking of selling a couple of these old triple sleds to buy car parts to fix my broken race car back there. Well, that was until last weekend anyways, when I got all three of these beauties running and went for a burn in the backyard behind the barn. It's amazing how two-stroke smoke can really get the creative juices going. And I think it was on the Scuzzy here, going about, 90, 95 miles an hour down the back lane when I started wondering just how fast this old girl would go. And it came to me in an instant. I need to do a radar run. Out in the lake, I've already prepared a good portion of the track by plowing out a strip about 40 feet wide by 1,320 feet. But before we pack up these beauties, I want to tell you about each of them. So this is my collection of the 4 classic triple sleds that I'm going to take out to the lake. And to tell you more about them, I'm going to start with the Scuzzy, the newest sled in the fleet. If you've been watching STV this season, you've already seen this sled a couple times here in the shop. To recap, it's a 1999 Mach Z, which was the performance peak for Skidoo back then. Stock, this sled made between 150 and 160 horsepower at the crank from its 3 cylinders and triple pipes. Out front, it's got the ADSA trailing arm front suspension with a mogul crushing 6 1/4 inches of travel. Sorry, I said that wrong. It really should say 6 1/4 inches of travel, absolutely crushed by moguls. Out back is a coupled SC10 rear skid that has, well, you guessed it, 10 inches of travel. What's interesting is you can still see elements of the suspension in modern Skidoos, which should tell you how good this piece really was. Now, all this goodness is mounted to a CK3 chassis weighing in at 572 pounds. This machine also puts the rider in a perfect feet forward riding position, allowing you to hang serious amounts of ham off the side of the seat in an attempt to keep the inside ski down in the corners. Back in the day when this sled was new, I was on an old Polaris Storm, which I thought was pretty good. That was until I saw the Mach Z. Actually, I got a better look at the Mach Z's taillights because every time I ran one, it would absolutely walk on that old Storm. So when I started my quest for classic triple sleds from each one of the manufacturers, the Mach Z was the only Skidoo I was looking for. Up next is the prettiest sled I have, a 2001 Yamaha SRX. This is a potent 700 triple triple that pumps out somewhere just north of 140 ponies, which is pretty good for a sled weighing in at 520 pounds. Out front is a low-slung trailing arm suspension with gold compression adjustable Olin shocks, damping a debatable 7 inches of travel. Out back, inside the track, is a Pro Action rear skid that at one time would travel 8 inches up and down. One modification here is adjustable transfer rods that are set up for weight transfer. This sled will snap the skis off the ground at the slightest tickle of the fun flipper. And this thing sounds good hiking those skis too. The triple pipes that require the hood to bulge out around them make this machine an absolute symphony on the snow. Despite it having a stock exhaust system, 18,000 kilometers on the clock, and piston rings that are in desperate need of replacement, this is still one of the best sounding triples on the snow. And it's blue too, the proper color for an SRX. The next sled in the lineup is my old 1990 Polaris Indy 650. Back in the day, this machine was the baddest on the block, pumping out just shy of 100 horsepower from the Fuji engine that didn't have any power valves and originally exhausted through a single expansion pipe and muffler. Despite this 3-into-1 system, the old Indy 650 created that iconic triple-cylinder wail that is still the stuff of legend. Suspension-wise, the 650 sports just over 6 inches of front travel, and out back, not quite 8. Now these numbers might sound silly today, but were downright cushy in the early 90s. Plus, this machine is an SKS, which pretty much made it a mountain sled back then too. Now, I'm a bit of a broken record on this, but for me, the Indy 650 is the machine that really solidified my soul as a sledder. And I don't mean a machine like this one, I mean this actual machine did that. I remember being like 15 years old, getting off a 10-year-old Skidoo Citation to squeeze the trigger on this machine in a field out behind the shop here. And that experience absolutely blew my mind. Very few times in my life has a vehicle with an engine in it done that. I can count like 5 times, and this was one of them. Plus, this is still a good looking piece. With the wedge-shaped hood and sharp corners and grille openings, it looks very muscle car-y. Heck, it even has fake louvers. How great is that? And even the graphics are cool too. Thank God there's no purple and pink on this sled, which was popular back then. Even now, when you look at the current line of Polaris sleds, you can see the influence of these old Indies. Now, you might have noticed that I've modified this one a bit back when it was my daily. I've upgraded to a set of Decker triple pipes and bored the carbs, the jugs, and upped the compression ratio in an effort to add maybe another 7 or 8 horsepower. Then I fitted a bigger seat and fuel tank for more range just so I could get to the fuel station. I also upgraded the track by doubling the lug height to 1 inch and replaced the original oil shocks with these sick billet aluminum ride effects units on the skis and Kimpex Golds out back. Now, if I had to, I would sell the Mach-Z or the SRX, but I'm keeping the 650 until this thing turns to dust. Now, for the 4th sled in my collection of a buzzin' dozen, and it's gonna be right here one day, and I know exactly what it's gonna be. A 2001 Arctic Cat Thundercat 1000. I want one of these sleds basically for 2 reasons. Number 1, it'll be the perfect sled to round out my collection of triple cylinder sleds from each manufacturer, but also because of a memory that I have. Back in the day, when I was on another snowmobile show, we took delivery of a brand new 2001 Arctic Cat Thundercat. Now, we rolled that thing out of the trailer brand new and hit the runway, and that sled pulled the speedometer needle all the way back around to 0. It was amazing. Now, I know it's not the proper way to break in a brand new sled, but we didn't care. We even took that sled later in the season to Jaws Performance, threw a set of his pipes on it, and it made 190 horsepower on the crank. That sled was insane to ride. So obviously I want another one, and one day it'll go right there. So with the radar run and potential drag race coming up on the lake, I'm gonna choose my missile now, because not only are these sleds going to the lake, Rich is also coming to town with a sweet XCR to represent Polaris, because even though I love that 650, that is gonna be like bringing a dull butter knife to this fight. Plus, there's a guy I found on the Book of Faces that's gonna come out with a 98 T-Cat. So I think overall, the sled to beat is gonna be the Mach-Z. But before I load it up, I'm gonna tinker with it a little bit. It's not cheating, no, this is optimizing. Yeah, optimizing. That's what I'm gonna do. I remember back in the day when top speeds were a huge thing, the Zs would pull like 130 miles an hour stock with just a few tricks like sucking the suspensions right down. Even closing off the air intakes would help at the top end, so I'm gonna do what I can to free up some potential. Although I think this Mach has left ludicrous speed behind it long ago, I figure anything I can do to optimize the sled and therefore optimize my chance of a win is all in the spirit of good competition. There we go, I think that works. A little sketchy though, but honestly I'm more worried about that track staying together at speed that's got 11,000 kilometers on it than I am the zip ties I got holding the front suspension down. What could possibly go wrong? Possibly go wrong. Nothing's ever gone wrong before. Anyways, all we have left to do tonight is load these bad boys up into the box so we can take them to the lake and race tomorrow.
All right, so it's the next day today and we're all at the lake. Rich is here, Don's here, my Facebook buddy that's come out with his T-Cat. So we've got one sled from each manufacturer represented, and I'm telling you, we're here to race. It's gonna be a good day. And this morning, I was doing some track maintenance out there and I may have carved in an ice oval track. That may come into play later. Anyways, it's time to send it. You know, we're all here for fun, but I think some of us are here for business. I mean, this was a fun idea to come out with the old triple sleds, but everybody here is like racers, so it's on. Like, this is gonna be real. Like, we're all trying. He's doing clutches, I've been lowering the sleds. Rich is going, I didn't do enough to my XCR, but it's gonna be good. You finished over there?
Never.
For the sleds we're going to race today, I should also mention that none of them are prepared race sleds. In fact, they're barely prep sleds at all. Each of these machines are just good old runners, nothing special. And I know the speeds we're going to hit today are not going to be at their peak potential for any of them. For that, we'd have to install more than the 150 or so studs each machine is sporting now, plus spend way more time caring about gearing and clutching and carb tuning and suspensions and, well, just generally caring. These machines basically got a quick wipe down to clean the dust off and brought out to the ice. It will be a friendly competition for sure, but today is more about having some fun with the old iron and friends, both new and old. But I can see the social media comments right now in my head. They say that these sleds should have been faster, or we should have made the track longer, or that we should have spent more time preparing the sleds. All valid comments for sure, but sometimes you just have to play the cards you have.
Okay guys, we are all here for fun today, but I've seen it too often when a bunch of amateurs, which is really what we are, get together on an event like this where we're going to have some high-speed snowmobiles, so I do want to lay down a couple rules of the game. Obviously, when we're doing the radar run and the drag racing, that track is one way only, so we're going to go down that track at high speed. When you guys exit the end, you're going to come back around on this far track over here in the deep snow, so that's going to be your return. I only want sleds going down the track, not returning on the track. Another thing just to make a note of, it's obviously super slick out there because we are right down to the ice all the way to the end. I put a couple pylons down before the end of the ice. So at that point you can get off the throttle and start slowing down. Of course, you're gonna be on the ice at that point as well, and then transition to unplowed snow off the end of it. We're gonna do a couple of practice runs just so everybody get the lay of the land, but the transition from ice to natural snow of the lake, it's all plowed out. It's not very big, but it is gonna be a little bit of a rough patch, and if we're doing better than a C note, it could get interesting in a hurry, so just want everybody to be aware of that. So other than that, just stay safe and we're gonna have a good day. Woohoo!
After the reading of the Riot Act to shake the rust off ourselves and the sleds, we had a successful, unlimited practice session. And when I say successful, I mean nobody crashed into each other. However, my hopes of a decent pull with the Scuzzy were dashed when I heard a slight bang going through the big end of the track.
So, not a good start with the Mach Z. I think I killed the plug already. But anyways, while I go back for a walk to rescue the Mach Z back there, I'm going to tell you what we got going on. We got a track about 40 feet wide by about 1,320 feet long, way down there by a couple of pylons that you can't see. Once I get the Mach Z out of the way, we're going to start to race. Actually, he's already racing, but he's on a 200, so it's really not a race anyways. I had high hopes for the Mach Z too, and that happened. When you ride old stuff, be prepared. I thought it was a belt, I was wrong. Yay. Ah, damn.
Looking back, that could have been really bad. I said it back in the shop, I was more worried about the track staying together. My crystal ball was right for a change. Anyways, I could have kicked Jake off the old SRX and run that, but I think I'll squeeze the trigger on the 650 even though there is no studs at all on that sled. Well, other than the one riding it.
$103 miles an hour. 94 miles an hour. 94 miles an hour. 92 miles an hour.
Right now though, it's all about going fast. Of the remaining sleds, it's no surprise the 650 was the slowest, but had excellent track speed as it swept the ice surface clean the entire length. The next sled was the SRX. It ran consistently in the low 90s, which was a little disappointing. I expected speeds closer to a C-note. Maybe this is one sled I'll have to spend a bit of time on to improve. Next is Don's 98 T-Cat. Pass after pass, the sled was a consistent 103 miles an hour while clawing, scratching, pawing, digging, and spinning the whole way down the ice surface. This sled was in desperate need of another 100 studs or so, maybe even chisels. Rich on the Polaris XCR rolled up like a boss on that sled and ripped a pass dominating at 107 miles an hour. I'm beginning to dislike this machine. However, that was a one and done speed. Every other pass that Rich made, he couldn't get the XCR to run above 102. Not sure where he found that extra 5 miles an hour for that one pass, but he did, and he took the win on the radar with it. For me, the big fail of the day is the Mach Z. The track on that thing came apart at the big end when we were practicing, so I never even got a number out of it, but it looked pretty good on the speedometer when this blew out. Anyways, at this point, we're gonna have lunch, and after lunch, we're gonna start drag race eliminations. While those guys were racing, I was cooking too. Ooh, yeah, that's nice and warm. There we go. There we go. Sausage and onion. This is gonna be great. Hey boys, to go along with the fish, I got packages of sausage and onion here for you too. Careful, they're a little warm. May have a little tinge of two-stroke, but it'll be fine. Don't worry, just power through it. It'll be good. I'm gonna get some fish myself. So now that lunch is over and done with, it's time for drag race eliminations, but I'm gonna change things up a bit. For the radar run, the boys were actually starting on the beach before they even got to the ice, so they were able to get a run up before they hit the big end. This time for drag racing, we're gonna start from a standing start here at the beginning of the track, but I'm also gonna shorten the track up a little bit as well to basically level the playing field. This should be fun. With Rich taking the radar win, he'll match up after the T-Cat and SRX battle. Now, Don came to play, and the T-Cat has got the SRX covered by around 20 or 30 horsepower, but I'm hoping for a close race with the plucky Yamaha. That hope didn't last long, as the T-Cat powered out of the hole and said goodbye to that SRX as it was left napping on the starting line. The real race started when the T-Cat and XCR pulled to the line. Now, both were trending at basically the same pace for the radar run, and the shorter track and standing start should make for a close one. Both sleds left in a flurry of track spin with good reaction times from both Rich and Don. That crisp XCR though, it ran away with the win. So what an amazing day to have out on the ice. I mean, absolutely spectacular weather, spectacular sleds, and spectacular friends. And I mean, I did have a little disappointment with the Mach Z not being able to join the party for the drag racing, but still had an awesome time flagging that event. Now, the sun is just about to go down behind the horizon, but I think that leaves us just enough time for maybe 1 or 2 more laps of the drag strip, or maybe that oval track. We'll have to see. Anyways, thanks for joining us this week on Snowmobiler Television.